Hi students, Mr. Cohen here. What I want to do is I want to build upon that presentation I showed you last Friday about the Greeks establishing colonies in other areas outside of mainland Greece. Um, they needed to do that for more than just one reason. So let's get started and look at some of those reasons. And by the way, if you missed the lesson last Friday, then you will need to go into the the announcements, and read the instructions and watch that video. I've also put that video in with my modules, which I'll show you soon. By the way, this guy is Alexander the Great, and he was from northern Greece, an area called Macedonia, and he actually created a huge empire, colonizing large areas of what is today areas of like Iran and even further into Afghanistan, came close to around India, all the way from Greece. But he was well known as a warrior for Greece, and I just thought I'd give you some hints by showing you him here because there's going to be some questions related to why Greeks sometimes establish colonies elsewhere. This is Alexander the Great. We'll be looking at the empire he created, not today, but later. So let's close him down. Here you see my modules. They look a bit different to me than they do to you, but I have an ancient Greece module. If you weren't here on Friday for my lesson, my video is here, and you can watch that with the presentation. There was one typo in there about, I believe it was barley was spelled incorrectly, but everything else is there for you. This video and presentation is actually a concentrated form of these readings here, and especially a more concentrated form of this reading from the textbook. So I've left these in here for you to read if you want to go into more depth. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this document, and you can also do this at home, but I will be linking this in my announcement. So it's History Alive, Chapter 25, Geography and Settlement of Greece. Let's go into this. And I want you to carefully follow along as I read this document. We're going to be looking at reasons for the ancient Greeks almost being forced to create colonies elsewhere, settlements outside of mainland Greece. So let's take a look. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm not going to download it. I'm just going to zoom in, make it a little bit bigger. Let's see. And scroll down. And there's a particular section I want to go to. I did tell you how blue the sea is there. It looks beautiful. And this is a more in-depth description of what was in the presentation last Friday. Difficulties of travel, communities cut off from each other. So the city-states, the communities that the Greeks had created were cut off from one another because of the mountainous, rocky landscape. So very often they would travel by sea because it was difficult by land. These city-states that were cut off from each other, they were like cities, but they were run like almost like a country with their own army, separate armies from each other. They had different laws, different types of government, but they all followed the same gods, Greek gods, but they were run very differently from each other. Here we see a map of Greece and countries bordering Greece. Let's zoom in a little bit. Like I said, Greece does have many islands. These are mostly Greek islands here. There might be the odd one that's Turkish because this is modern day Turkey here. And the Greeks and Turks have often fought each other over the years. But the Greeks earlier did establish colonies over here in what is today Turkey. This area is also called Asia Minor. This is Turkey over here. Just this little bit is Turkey in Europe. This is Europe, and this is Asia. We call this area Asia Minor. So these places, many of these are Greek city-states that are labelled. Like I said, they ran the communities almost like separate countries. So it'd be like Delaware having its own army, and Dublin having its own army, and Worthington having its own army, and we'd call them city-states. So there were cities that were run like a state or a country. with their own laws. So Athens would have had different laws, different type of government, definitely very different than, say, Sparta. Two very powerful city-states, but run very differently. Again, they all did follow the same Greek gods, though. You can see it by looking at elevation. You can see that this colour here, a lot of the country is this colour, modern-day Greece still, yeah. Obviously, it's still mountainous, and over 3,000 metres or over 10,000 feet is the elevation for these darker brown areas. Let's scroll down. And this reading, you can go back into this reading yourself after watching this if you need to. And we're going to go down. It describes Greece as a peninsula. And you can see a peninsula, water on three sides. 1, 2, 3 sides. These are peninsulas also, water on that side, this side, and this side. Okay, so lots of peninsulas. Greece itself is a peninsula. Scroll down. Aegean Sea on this side, on the eastern part of Greece. The Ionian Sea over here, and further north is a sea called the Adriatic Sea, between Greece and modern-day Italy over here. But they are all kind of like the corner of the Mediterranean Sea. They're corners of the Mediterranean Sea. We'd say Greece is touched by the Mediterranean Sea. Very large island of Crete, or the largest Greek island, I should say. Let's scroll down. Okay. I'm going to be reading this section here. I believe I want to read this one here, the farming in ancient Greece. Let me just check on that. Okay. I told you the other day that this landscape was not good for growing certain crops. It was good for grapes and for growing olives, but it was not a good place for raising cattle, that's for certain. They would raise goats instead because of the landscape. And I told you a Greek salad usually has goat cheese and olives in it. Okay, that reflects the landscape of Greece. Okay, section 3, farming in ancient Greece. I'd like you to follow along, please. Most people in ancient Greece made their living by farming, but farming wasn't easy in that mountainous land. Even in the plains and valleys, the land was rocky and water was scarce, it was rare. There were no major rivers flowing through Greece, and the rains fell mostly during the winter months. With limited flat land available, Greek farmers had to find the best ways to use what little land they had. Some farmers built wide earth steps into the hills to create more flat land for planting. These would have been called terraces. We'd call those terraces. Okay? That would collect some of the rainfall. A few farmers were able to grow wheat and barley, but most grew crops that needed less land, particularly grapes and olives. Greek farmers produced a lot of olive oil, which was used for cooking, to make soap, and as fuel for lamps. And here you see in this picture, this could be, let me see, I'm not sure if those are meant to be olives, or it could be apricots or some other fruit, because they did grow some fruits as well as grapes and olives. Okay. Ancient Greek farmers grew food for their own families. In addition to small vegetable gardens, many farmers planted hillside orchards of fruit and nut trees. Some Greek families kept bees to make honey. Honey was the best known sweetener in the ancient world. Greek farmers also raised animals, but because cattle need wide, flat lands for grazing, the ancient Greeks had to raise sheep and goats, which can graze on the side of mountains. Sheep supplied wool for clothing, while goats provided milk and cheese. Feta cheese, for example. Goat cheese. Greek farmers kept some oxen, mules, and donkeys for ploughing and transportation. Many Greek families also kept pigs and chickens. Right, the shortest, that wasn't a good chicken impersonation. Let's try better than that. Okay. Chickens. The shortage of good farmland sometimes led to wars between Greek settlements, with each one claiming land for itself. Okay, as you will see, some settlements also had to look beyond the mainland for new sources of food and other colonies. Sorry, and other goods. I'm jumping ahead there. Okay, so you see that they have difficulty farming in this area. You also see, if we go back up here, that these communities, they're actually relatively close. You've got several thousand people in these communities. They're not that far apart, and sometimes they're encroaching upon each other's territory. Now imagine what kind of things could happen if there's a shortage of farmland, if they're coming close to each other, right? Limited resources. How's that going to affect people? How's it going to affect tempers and so on? Okay. So, what I would like you to do is think about why the ancient Greeks would have been forced to start colonies. Right? Why would they have started colonies? Let's think about that right now. Now, so the ancient Greeks are forced to start colonies. So it's not a simple process. They don't just decide, oh, we're going to go out and start colonies. They went through quite a lengthy process. And as I said in the presentation, there's a few steps. So let's get started. Starting colonies. As the populations of Greek communities increased, the existing farmland no longer produced enough food to feed all of the people. One solution was to start colonies. Colonies, a settlement under the control of a usually distant country. Like I said, the 13 colonies which became the United States were colonies started by the English 3,000 miles away from what is today the United States. Okay, so controlled by a distant country, colonies. The Greeks did this. They established colonies. Colonies or settlements in distant places. Many Greek communities sent people across the sea in search of new places to farm so that they could ship food back home. People who set up colonies are called colonists. The ancient Greeks made many preparations before starting a journey to a new land. Often they began by consulting. Consulting means to get an opinion and information from someone. So consult with somebody. They consulted with an oracle. The oracle, by the way, we'll find out. An oracle to ask the Greek gods whether their efforts would be successful. An oracle was a holy person who the Greeks believed could communicate with the gods. They also believed these oracles could see into the future. Next, the colonists gathered food and supplies. So this is the next step. So they've already seen the oracle to get an opinion of whether they're going to be successful or not. So the next thing they do is they gather food and supplies. After that, they're going to take a flame. Think of the Olympic flame. It's seen as something very important. The Greeks also took a flame from their town's sacred fire so they could start a sacred fire or holy fire in their new home, in their new colony. And here we see that the ancient Greeks are setting up colonies outside of the mainland of Greece. Like you see Sicily and southern Italy. This is where the Greeks set up settlements or colonies, right? You can see that they've also got trade items. So they're going to be sending those trade items back to mainland Greece. And in return, they'll be getting things from mainland Greece that they need over in these colonies. So let's look at Sicily in southern Italy. Okay, you can see here, there's a symbol for the item that's being produced in Sicily and being sent back to mainland Greece. Which of these would it be? What would be the trade item? It's wool. What would be the trade item going from Phoenicia? Phoenicia. Phoenicia, which trade item? There's Phoenicia. The trade item being produced here is gold. Which two items do you see that are going from the northern part of Africa? Do you see iron? Do you see timber going from northern Africa? No, you don't. You see two trade items. One is wool and one is grain. Wool and grain. But Greek colonists faced many hardships. They had to take a long sea voyage, a long sea journey, and then find a good location for their colony. They looked for areas with natural harbours and good farmland. They tried to avoid places where the local people might oppose the new colonies. Obviously, they don't want to get into a fight with people already living there. Finally, they had to build their new community and make it successful. The Greeks established colonies over a period of more than 300 years, from 1000 to 650 BCE, before Common Era. I'm okay with using BC, before Christ, or before Common Era. The first group of settlers started a colony called Ionia in Asia Minor, in what is today present-day Turkey. Later groups started colonies in Spain, France, Italy and Africa, and along the coast of the Black Sea. Let's take a look. So we see here Northern Africa, there's colonies in Northern Africa, Egypt, especially a city called Alexandria, named after that man at the beginning, Alexander the Great. And over here, this is possibly, that could be Libya, this area, or Tunisia. And over here in southern France, northern Spain a little bit, southern France here, Marseille, the city of Marseille, was, I believe the Greeks settled there, southern Italy, and also on the Black Sea coast up here. Definitely around the Mediterranean region, okay? Also on the island of Cyprus. So let's now go down here. These colonies helped spread Greek culture, so the Greek way of life actually spread as well with these people. So, you know, their music, their language, their literature. Some flourished, though they did well, very well, through farming and trade. Colonists continued to enjoy whatever rights they once held in their home country of Greece, including the right to participate, to take part in something, such as a game or activity, in Greek athletic games. So think of like the Olympic Games. So, what I'd like to do, I'm going to stop here, and what I've done is I've set up a discussion for you, discussion groups, and I'd like you to list as many reasons as you can in the discussion and share them with the other people in the group why you think the ancient Greeks were almost forced to create colonies. Okay, and there will be questions on and an assessment to do with this. I don't believe I'm going to give you the assessment on Wednesday. I'm going to give it you later in this. I want to go over some more information. So, look for reasons in this reading for why the ancient Greeks would have decided to establish colonies outside of mainland Greece. All right, kids, and I'm going to also, I'll put this link in the announcement, but these resources are there for you in, let's see, let's minimize this. These resources are available for you in my Ancient Greece module. So what I've done is I've gone and put and indented a lot of these together that are to do with Greek geography and settlement. So this area here that's all indented, these are indented. These all relate to geography and settlement. All right, kids, I'll be in touch. Have a great rest of your day. So you've got the discussion after this. You can start it straight away if you want to, but it is assigned for tomorrow. There's also a video for you to watch from the BBC. Okay, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye now.